podcast episode of Political brought to you by New Narrative, a movement for democracy, freedom of expression, and freedom of information in Southeast Asia. New Narrative is an entirely member-supported platform, and it's entirely supported by members, people like you, who pay $52 a year to support the important work that we do. So if you like this podcast, if you like what we do, please do join us as a member at newnarrative.com/join or donate at newnarrative.com/donate. My name is PJ Thum. I'm founder and managing director of New Narrative. I'm wearing a blue and white batik shirt and sitting in front of a big bookcase full of books, and my pronouns are he, him. Today, we've got Terry Shi, the editor-in-chief of The Online Citizen, a news platform in Singapore, which has recently been banned by the IMDA, by the Singapore government authorities, through the withdrawal of its class license under the Broadcasting Act. So we're going to talk to Terry all about this right now. So welcome to the show, Terry.
Thank you for having me here on the show, PJ.
So first question, most important question, I think, how are you doing personally, Terry? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. There's have been a lot of people writing to me asking me how am I coping okay? Especially given the slew of quasi-criminal charges put against me, and also the recent judgment on the defamation suit that the Singapore Prime Minister has brought against me.
Right. Yeah, let's not forget that. So you were recently found guilty of defamation of the Prime Minister, and damages of 210,000 Singapore dollars were levied against you.
Yes, correct. That's correct.
Right. But you're doing a fundraising campaign and you're almost at 90%?
Yes. I would say it's just 0. couple of percent from 90. Yes. So this is the 14th day, 15th day. This is the 15th day, or you want to be exact, it's 14 and a half, because we started at 12 o'clock on the first day. Yeah.
Right. Singaporeans, I think, are making their opinion of this nonsense loud and clear. So if a Singaporean or anyone really wants to donate to your fundraising campaign to pay off these ridiculous damages, where should they go?
They should go to my Facebook page. Facebook profile, which is facebook.com/TRYXYC. I believe that's
XYC. Yeah.
Yes, XYC. So that's my hiring page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, this is just one of many. I think I've lost count how many cases there are against you. There's also the POFMA that's still pending. And then there's the criminal defamation. Has that been resolved?
The hearing has finished.
Right.
Yes, the hearing has already transpired. So now we are waiting for the judgment. But pending submissions from my for counsels from the prosecutors and also my defense counsel. So that would conclude in November this year.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever stopped to count just how many court cases, civil suits, criminal suits?
Okay. So I have two contempt of court offense. One is investigating. The other is really proceeding. Then we have a criminal defamation suit against me. And a civil defamation suit has already concluded. I have also 5 POFMA directions being filed against TOC, which is also against me, and we are appealing against 3. So there's really at the Court of Appeal stage. So we are waiting for the judgment on that. I believe that's all for now. Yeah.
That's the joint one with the SDP, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, right. They said POFMA, the resolution will be fast, but it's over a year now since that POFMA was originally.
It's close to a year. It's close to a year. It's close to a year.
Oh,
not what I believe a judgment that's coming from the court.
Right, but the original,
in terms of the POFMA was sold to Singaporeans in Parliament and also the parliamentarians. That POFMA is something that is very simple, something that is very fast and prompt, because it's very clear on what's true, what's false. And the court would be easily able to determine what is what. But from my personal experience, I have litigated on my on behalf in court against the state prosecutors. It's very clear that they were using a lot of legal jargons. It's not on the basis of what's the truth or what's the falsehood. They were simply playing with words. So it is really hard to expect anyone, a layperson, as what it was claimed in the parliament, to defend themselves against a direction should they choose to. And it's not cheap. For an entity, the total cost will come up to 1,000 just on the appeal part itself. Whereas if an individual were to contest, that would run up to about 600 odd. And frankly, in Singapore, first, who would have the, I would say guts, but the willingness to step out of line and then to contest what the minister has directed, and then to put on top of that, take up time from their personal or of their personal accord, and then to put out such a huge sum and then contest that, which
Right.
you don't have any idea of whether or not you will succeed. Especially under the kind of you're going against state resources. You're going like in my personal account, I was going against 3 state prosecutors with me alone. So how would a lay person be expected to do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's really the raison d'etre of the PAP, the standard operating procedure of the PAP, which is that they intimidate, they harass, and then people become afraid of speaking up, of taking action. And then the PAP can say, hey, we didn't do anything. If people don't want to speak up, that's their problem, not ours, right? I think it was a Human Rights Watch called it, and everyone's called it killing the chicken to scare the monkeys. So this whole IMDA thing is part of that, because rather than this overt jackbooted thugs coming after you, which you already have between all your interrogations by the police and all the criminal and civil cases, you've also got all this bureaucratic nonsense just grinding you down. Lots and lots of paperwork, lots and lots of quibbling over minor details, and then at the end of the day, IMDA can claim that it's just because he wouldn't file and he wouldn't just obey the rules and regulations and claim rule of law. So let's talk about the IMDA. What exactly are they accusing you of?
So in this round, what they're accusing of TOC of is not complying with the regulation of declaring the submitting its declaration for financial year 2020. We have already complied for 2019. However, for 2019, they prior to this whole hoo-ha, they were finding issue with 3 points, which they stated in their press release. One of it which was not mentioned. So you have one which is about 2 donors that did not have the NRIC. It's not what they say about not identifying. We identified the full name. It's just that so happened that the person donating did not specify the NRIC. So
okay, wait, but let me stop you there.
Yes.
Didn't Indrani Raja just say in Parliament, lapses will happen, mistakes will happen, right? And they're talking about millions of dollars with the ministries. With you, it's 1-2 donors. I don't even know how much. Can't be that much money. $50, $100, and somehow that is proof of what your malicious intent, or that you're intended to deceive. Why a double standard?
No, if you want to say double standard, I would say this: TOC is the only 2 publications that are being licensed under this particular licensing regime. The IMDA kept saying that majority of the website, but can they name the majority of website? It's like, I got a lot of friends. Which friends? So there are 11 websites that are registered under another framework, which is regulating on the basis of content, meaning they put a 50,000 bond with the IMDA, and if they were to contravene the content regulation, the standard of content, that 50,000 will be so-called void. Whereas for TOC, our licensing regime is different. The licensing regime that we are put under is simply to keep track of the source of fundings that we have. So there are 4 bases basic funding that they are looking at. One is donors. Next is subscription. Then we have local advertisers and foreign advertisers. So these are the four amounts that basically they are looking at.
Okay, so have IMDA ever explained why you have 11 websites under this other licensing regime, the one at the 50,000 bond, and these 11 websites include all the SPH websites and Yahoo, right?
Yes, correct.
And then you have two websites over here, TOC and the independent.sg,
yes, correct.
Who are classified under a different licensing regime.
Correct.
So why the difference?
If I were to speculate, because this is not, I believe there's some terms and conditions for the people who are licensee. They are not supposed to actually share the contents of their license. I believe that what the difference that sets both of us apart is that those people who comply with the other content licensing regime are media accredited. If you notice, so the initial 10, which was licensed in 2013, which includes Yahoo, the SPH, various websites, and you have CNA today, and then back then the one that was odd one out was Yahoo, which we hypothesized that the reason why this came about was Yahoo's excellent report on how the SMRT drivers carry out their protests, the strike, because it was only Yahoo that was covering in a very fair and balanced manner, and that somewhat prompted the government to come with this law and then to clamp down, to reel in Yahoo. And subsequently, Mothership was the other platform that was being roped in under this particular licensing regime. And if you notice, all these 11 websites, all of them have media accreditation.
Even Mothership?
Yes, Mothership also have media accreditation. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so for the other two websites, TOC and independent.sg, right? What are the terms of this class license? And okay, so I think
okay, maybe I
should just be clear for the audience, right?
Yes.
The Broadcasting Act automatically licenses websites to provide internet services in Singapore, but there are certain classifications that they can assign websites under, and then this license can be pulled if you're not compliant, meaning, and that's forcing you to be blocked from Singapore. Is that sort of an accurate summary of the situation?
So by default, everyone has a class license.
Yes.
By default. Because if everyone have to apply, then that's crazy. So by default, everyone have the class license to broadcast in Singapore via web page. I need to emphasize that via web page. So the minister or the ministry or the agency have the right prerogative to designate who they want to be licensed, to be asked to register for a class license. So in answering your previous question, I did ask IMDA, so who are the other websites that are being asked to register under this particular licensing regime? So I said after a long wait, they replied saying that okay, Middle Ground, TISG, and TOC. So Middle Ground folded, so left with TISG and TOC. And I believe I asked on what was the basis. So the thing is, I think the answer that I got was the minister have the right to decide.
Right.
Yeah.
Entirely arbitrary. Discretion.
Yeah.
Right?
It's discretionary, yes.
Right. Okay. And then before we get to this, let me just say to the audience, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and the comments, and we will try and ask them later. Okay. So before we get to the IMDA class license, I want to ask you, for a while, TOC was gazetted as a political association.
Yes.
But then that was withdrawn, right?
That was 2017, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
Yes.
So what, for a long time, you were, for whatever reason, considered a political association and had to obey a whole different set of laws regulating your finances, Was it under the Political Donations Act?
Well, thank you for asking that question because
Yeah.
you know, this particular political association act started the whole TOC thingy. So of course TOC started in 2006 December, but it was really this whole act of gazetting TOC as a political association that started the whole fire again. Because at that point in time, TOC was kind of fizzling out, where because volunteers are burned out, etc. So all of a sudden, prior to the general election 2011, the government, the PMO informed TOC that it is to be gazetted as a political association on the basis that it organized online and offline events. Going over to the terms in which this license would entail, frankly, it is funny that the terms are much it's less
Onerous?
is less onerous than that of the IMDA, because for the for this particular political association declaration, we only have to declare we can keep $5,000 of donation anonymous, meaning we don't have to declare if the donation goes up to 5,000. Anything above we have to declare. When it comes to bona fide commercial activities, we don't even have to declare. We only have to declare the donations that we receive. So
Above 5,000.
Above $5,000. So
Right.
when it comes to this, right, you would notice that for under this political association licensing, it's much easier for us to comply, because it will come to a point where we don't need to rely on the donation. We can just run on this bona fide commercial activities by itself. But coming to this IMDA licensing, it is much more onerous when you have to declare your subscribers, you have to declare your donors. But donors is what we had been doing all the while for the political association, and then we have to declare the advertisers that advertise with us, or where we are, or the kind of deals that we have commercially on a commercial basis. So that becomes very intrusive. Of course, the IMDA would justify by saying that, we need to know where your money is coming from, and whether they are coming from a foreign source, and which is why this whole thing comes as a fallacy, because really, if an entity, if it's funded by a foreign source, why is there to disguise the sum of money via subscription or via donation? You could just simply do as a bona fide advertising deal, or purchase merchandise. So make this particular entity sell merchandise, and then and this foreign entity just simply help to purchase, or there's a separate business being run on the sideline under the same company, but not dealing with this company itself. There's so many ways of doing it, and it's very clear that the kind of fundings that they are looking at is actually micro level support. Because bear in mind, the kind of donations that IMDA is looking for is even if TOC receive $1 donation, they would require TOC to declare that $1 donation.
What about 1 cent?
Even so, yes. So
Oh my
long, if you receive any donation, right, you need the NRIC and the name. If not, you have to donate to a charity of their choosing. And which is what we have told IMDA about the two donors. So we have established the identity of one of the donor, and then the other donor who we are unable to identify the NRIC. I would say, if that's the case, then by all means, order TOC to donate the money to a charity. And bear in mind, the two names are declared by TOC. It's not the case of IMDA of finding throughout the financial records, and then there's two donors. Well, who are they? Why didn't you declare? If that was a situation, then TOC have something to answer, have a lot to answer to the public, because we hid the information from IMDA. But in this case, we declared of our own violation that there are these two donors, but however we do not have their NRIC. So
Okay, so
yeah,
so let's come to this current thing, this current incident, which they
yes,
are withdrawing suspending your class license for and de facto banning you from Singapore, which is that you do want to declare, you have done the declaration, they just won't accept it. Is that correct?
oh no. So what's
Okay,
happening here for the 2020 declaration is that we have the same issue with the 2019 declaration. So of course, IMDA is now saying that they have issued a stern warning for the 2019 declaration. So the thing here is, right. So the stern warning also on the basis of all the 3 points that I have highlighted: the donor that's not identified, the subscription that's not justified, the foreign advertiser figures that does not tally when you add up together. So this three, right, frankly, they did not accept. They was like, oh, okay, we give you a stern warning, like what police would do, and then state that, okay, we warn you, and then do not repeat. So the issue has not gone away.
oh,
The
okay,
issue has not gone away. So if we were to go proceed with the declaration of 2020, we will come with the same problem again. They would come
right.
and ask us to justify, okay, why are you collecting this sum of subscription? Of course, the donation, we are very, very, very clear. So this is who has donated, who are the people donated. Then we have the other point about foreign fund, foreign advertising. So,
Right.
And I would want to share with the audience that we had local advertisers. Oh, sorry, we had local advertising companies working with TOC. However, when the AGC was it AGC, when the police officer made a police report saying that he believes that the criminal defamation has been filed, have been committed, and then the investigation launched upon me, the Singapore company backed away. The canceled the deal that had canceled the deal that it had with POC. So Frank, and of course, this criminal defamation suit is still ongoing, 3 years down the road. So all this legal suits and etc. does affect TOC commercially, because people are afraid or concerned what would their implication be if they continue their business with TOC.
Right. But even if I remember Monsoon Book Club wanted to advertise with you, and then IMDA said, oh, it's not a bona fide transaction, which I don't see how they can decide what is or isn't a real transaction if a company, a foreign organization pays you money to advertise transparently, and then you run the advertisement. How is that bona fide, right? Do I remember that correctly?
Yes, it's not advertised. It was for TOC to run a event. So it
Right.
was asking TOC to run a book writing, essay writing competition for the purpose of National Day, Singapore's National Day. So we ran a essay writing competition. We gathered some submissions, and we judged which are the essays you want and published on TOC. And that was the purpose of the amount that was paid for by the Monsoon Book Club. So what PJ you said just now was correct. It's arbitrary that IMDA can decide what is basically arbitrary on what it decides on what is bona fide commercial activities, what is not. Because
Right.
even when we try to justify, like frankly, if you look at it commercially, right, that is what people have to pay for. Similarly, like how the local websites, you take Mothership, Straits Times, CNA. Let's don't talk about that. The other major websites in Singapore, when the Singapore government approached them to promote certain campaign policy, etc., do they not get paid? Do they not get paid? So in that sense, is that considered as propaganda? Well, of course, but that's from local funding. But it's on the same basis where a private entity were to approach a media company and give money to help promote a certain service, a certain product, a certain concept, and that's how the multimedia business work.
Yeah, that's how advertising works, spawn
Right.
all over the place, right? Okay, so let's come to the exact thing. That's the problem, the subscriptions, right?
Yes.
So you have 4 categories of revenue: local advertising, foreign advertising, and donors. And those, by and large, are generally clear. The local advertising, foreign advertising, you have advertisements, people pay you. That's pretty clear. Donors, any money given, you give the name and NRIC number, even if it's 1 cent. Okay, you've done that. So the problem is subscriptions, and what IMDA is saying is that your subscribers are not really subscribers.
So they're saying that there's no differential treatment. So
between subscribers and donors.
Yes, because say in Straits Times, you have if you're a subscriber. Actually, Straits Times is a very bad example to begin with, because by and large, if you look at it, Straits Times, a lot of their articles nowadays can be viewed online. So when you subscribe digitally, frankly, it's a question of what you really get, other than the digital PDF that you get, which frankly you could just go to the website and see the articles. Say if it would probably make sense if you were to subscribe for the physical copy. So in a way, you're paying for the paper, but then you're paying for advertising also. Right. So
New Narrative, for example, we have a paywall, and members can go past the paywall, non-members can't go past the paywall.
Yes.
But what IMDA is saying is with TOC, what's the difference between a donor and a subscriber? Because all your articles are free anyway. Is that right? That's what they're saying?
Yes. So that's why we have explained to IMDA there's 2 tier in the So at that point when they contested, they were asking TOC to justify. There were two tiers. One is I think $100. The other is I believe 450. Was that 750? 750 USD. So the 750 is basically you can ask TOC. So you're entitled to ask TOC to of the T-shirt of your choice. If you were to write to us, we'll mail you the T-shirt, and also the ad-free experience. Just like YouTube Premium, where you pay for subscription and you'll not be served with advertising. And for the $100 option, this is where the contention comes in, where the $100 option means that you could actually suggest a topic in which TOC would look into to write an article about. Maybe I would want to elaborate on that part. The contrary to what a lot of people think, is not commissioning of a post to write what the person wants. So, for example, can you write an article about how vaccine does not work? That does not work that way. The topic that a person could, a subscriber of that tier could suggest to TOC would be, does vaccine really work? It is a topic where the TOC is then exercises editorial discretion on how to carry out that article, and also write the article based on facts.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like someone can pay $100 and order you to write some propaganda, or like a de facto paid advertising, sponsored content. It's just a suggested topic, and then you will have full editorial discretion. Okay, so let's come back to the issue that
before we continue. Do you know how much, frankly, right, for if for the website of TOC's traffic to charge, frankly, to a private entity to write an editorial? That's $400-500 at minimum. So why would I be allowing a subscriber that only pays $100 to direct TOC to write an article? That's something wrong, right? It does not make any commercial sense.
Anyway, you can just classify it under advertising, right? You don't need to hide it. Even if you're doing SponCon, it's basically advertising. Couldn't you just say it's a bona fide commercial transaction and put it under advertising?
No, and that's the point here. See, that's the point here. Because if it was in that arrangement where it's an editorial, then it would have been classified as a advertising revenue. But in this case, right, it's just that you have patrons, subscribers who are more supportive going for that tier, and they could play a part in terms of how TOC would carry its stories. The kind of stories that TOC would carry. And because what TOC wanted then was to have a group of well wishers who would fund TOC and then to be part of the whole content creation process.
Yeah, sure.
Mm,
I mean,
mm,
New Narrative, we ask our members, hey, what would you like to see? We do surveys of our members all the time.
right.
So I don't see, and okay, like full disclosure, I am a supporter on Patreon of TOC.
Right.
I didn't ask for the T-shirt because I have enough T-shirts, and anyway, I know T-shirts cost you money, but I feel like I get my money's worth with Patreon as a subscriber with a light or ad-free experience. It's great, right? And I'm getting intangible benefits of feeling good about supporting pretty much the only genuine, breaking news, independent news outlet in Singapore. No offense to Independent or any others, but let's face it, it's TOC is in a class of its own. I may not agree with anything that, with everything that you publish, but I agree that it's important to have independent media, right? So I feel like I'm getting my money's worth from my subscription, but IMDA are saying that that's not enough to consider someone a subscriber.
Okay, so what IMDA says is that they do not have, based on their information, they do not have evidence to prove, to believe that that is the case. So my response to that would be, right, as what I have written in my Facebook post before, if the subscribers, I as a service provider basically says that, okay, this is what the service that I'm going to provide, and the subscriber understands that this is a condition, this is the service that's provided. If they do not get a service provided, they would just reflect to me, the service provider, that they are not getting the service that that I promised to be providing, and I'll look into it and I'll address the issue. So there are points of time in which, because you have to understand TOC is all just me, so you have points of time where the website may do not have the features that the IMDA is saying to be, but that doesn't mean that the subscriber are not being entitled to that, or they do not have access to that, because they are for example, one point that the IMDA pointed out, there was no login button on the website, but that doesn't mean that the subscriber can't log in, because it's just a URL. It's just the website /login. Login. So even without the button, the person can log in. So it is something that I believe IMDA is just making a
ultimately, what business is any of this with IMDA? What do they have the right to quibble over? Your business model, the benefits you give subscribers? They don't have. They're there on paper to regulate the internet, and how you choose to charge your subscribers and what services they get and whether they're happy or not and how they interface with your website, that's none of IMDA's business. So I really don't see. So it basically, because of all this, though, they're saying that your declaration is wrong. Last year, they gave you a warning because of it. This year, you tried to submit on the same basis, and they said it was incomplete, basically.
Oh no, I have to correct you on that. So on this year's declaration, what we did is we submitted the declaration saying that TOC does not receive foreign funding, which is part of the form that we are supposed to fill up. TOC does not receive any foreign funding and will not receive any foreign funding for the purpose of operation of the website. And then we follow up with, we would submit the other figures if. We would submit the other figures other than the subscription fees, on the basis because of the previous issue that we had with IMDA over the justification of collecting a subscription fees. That was the basis of the current conflict that we had. And I believe was more recently what we offered something more, which is we offered to give the full declaration of the donation they receive on the condition that IMDA do not quibble with us over the subscription fees anymore, asking us to justify why are we collecting subscription fees. Because if IMDA is going to do that, as what I said at the very beginning, we will end up with the same situation again.
Yeah.
And IMDA would then say that, we have 2 years for a row, you have violated the terms or you have not complied with the thing. it's going to be the same thing. It would never ending, because it's very clear that IMDA just want to find fault with TOC.
Yeah. I mean, when I start thinking about why on earth do we even have IMDA? Why are they regulating the internet? What on earth do they actually do apart from every time I hear about them, they're trying to censor. I mean, I get that development is in their name, but every time I hear about them, it feels like they're just throwing obstacles in front of independent media and people who disagree with the PAP government, and just trying to make everyone's life difficult. And really, that seems to be their main function. And if it wasn't for this, they would find some other fault with you. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask, what about your employees? Because I think Shanmugam made a big fuss about the fact that you're foreign employees. I mean, you write stories and, cover all of Asia, and there's plenty of companies in Singapore which have foreign employees, but somehow Straits Times is foreign employees. I mean, somehow it's a problem for you. So, how are your employees doing? Are they going to be losing their jobs? What's happening there?
Well, this is something that I have to talk with them in the weeks to come, because it came a bit sudden. So my instruction for them was to take a break before we come together and talk about the matter. So it's and also not to mention for the court, because we're going to submit this matter to the court and for them to decide on what's going to happen, whether IMDA has the power to do what it's actually seeking to do in the first place. So it's nothing for certain at this point. So I wouldn't have anything that definitive to say on this matter.
So what's your next step? Are you file some sort of deal or what?
Sorry, repeat that again.
What's your next step?
What's next step? First thing, I would have to comply by closing the website. But as for social media platforms, this is something that I'm trying to grapple with on how far would I take the complying with their order, because in the first place, IMDA, the powers of the authority simply is to govern the broadcasting ability of companies, entities, individuals in Singapore. It does not cover the right to broadcast or overseas. So they could jolly well, it's well within their powers to restrict someone from broadcasting within Singapore, because this is the right. But they are talking about, I am stopping you from even publishing outside of Singapore. Then that's stepping outside of their powers, and which is what we are trying to clarify with the court, that whether or not you have that power. And in the first place, the declaration, as shared on my Facebook page, the declaration that IMDA was sought with TOC was on its website. Nothing was said about its social media platforms. And bear in mind, there's no platform, social media platforms in Singapore that's being asked to register. We have websites, web pages. This is covered under the Broadcasting Act, under the Computer Online Services. But there is nothing talking about the social media platforms. Of course, the upcoming law, the Foreign Intervention Law, specifically mentions social media platforms. But in this particular case, the Broadcasting Act does not cover social media platforms.
Okay, but IMDA specifically asks you to shut down your social media platforms as well.
Yes, correct. Which is why we're arguing that they do not have the power to do so, because in the first place, the declaration or the agreement that we have on terms of the class license only pertains to the website.
Okay, so you're arguing that IMDA is overstepping its power. It's already ridiculously, huge overreach. Correct. By also trying to stop you from broadcasting outside of Singapore.
Yes.
And by trying to stop your social media presence.
Yes, correct.
And you're filing, did you say a judicial review?
Yes, judicial review. Correct.
But that would take a long time, won't it?
Yes, correct. So in the meantime, I have to comply.
Okay.
Yes. I have to comply to a certain extent. I think I have to comply to a certain extent, yes.
So will the website come down entirely, or will it just still exist there, and then we see everything up to tomorrow, and then you stop posting, or does the whole thing have to just go down?
Based on what IMDA requests, the site has to go down. But of course, I could, with the clarification from the court, we could then look at geo blocking with
Right,
clarification.
geo-blocking.
Yes,
Right.
but we need to have clarification of the court. So
Right.
for the time being, before the court would come to any judgment, we would have to take down the site entirely.
Right. So the site could be down for months or even years until you get this clarification.
I wouldn't.
Oh,
I
gosh.
don't think it will take years.
Right.
Court is quite
Okay.
efficient. In
I
that
looked
sense.
at the Broadcasting Act, and it also says like a mirror of the site is also considered a site, or a subsite of the site is also considered. So you can't. I mean, I already know the answer to this one, but you can't just mirror it, and you know.
That was one of the things that IMDA was
Yeah.
finding fault with when we had this online season Asia.com. They were saying that this content is totally the same as this old site, and therefore it is deemed as the same site.
Right. Okay. So even if you get a new URL,
yes,
and one of the questions from our audience has been, what about just start a company in Malaysia or another country under a new URL with the same content?
So the first 2 points, that's possible. The third point, no. The moment there's a replication of the content, IMDA could jolly well come in and say that this is actually the same site that failed to declare its funding.
But if you're outside, how do they stop you?
You should know what could they actually argue, because if they have actually raised this point before, then they will bite on this as long as they think it deems fit. So it's not, of course they could not enforce in terms of if you're based overseas. However, they could still ask for the website to be barred from Singapore access.
Right.
So that defeats the purpose.
And I think someone in the YouTube chat says, what if another identity hosted a mirror site on a license with TOC? And that's the same problem. They could then argue that it's basically TOC, again, it's a mirror site, and just block that other identity, that other site, whether wholly or in part.
Okay. I would say, frankly, if that person who is doing this is not me, is not Terry Shi, very likely IMDA would not do anything about that.
Oh, okay then. Why don't we just do that?
You need to understand where I'm coming from, because the basis of why IMDA is going through all these hoops and all these hoops with TOC and myself, right, is to ensure that we do not carry on our work. So if someone were to reproduce that without any new publication, then we'll deem it as, this is somewhere out there. If they were to try and hit it with a licensing or to block it, right, you bring attention to that. And the thing about mirror sites is that it's never ending. So one mirror site goes up, then you have another mirror site. What we do is spur people to go and do more of that replication. So unless that person is me, whom they could identify and then prosecute, if not, they would not go so far to go for all these small players.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe what I should do is I'll ask Oxford, the Bodleian Library, to mirror your site and make it available, as a library, as a sort of archive in the library. Yeah. Okay. So in the meantime, then, when you go down, you filed all these appeals. Then what about you personally? How are you going to make a living, put food on your table? And what are you going to do then in the next few months when you don't have this income?
Well, contrary to what a lot of people think, my livelihood does not come from as a TOC per se. As what I have been sharing, right, it is more of myself paying for TOC.
Okay.
the operation. And my starting, I come from engineering background. This is an industry that I shouldn't be in the first place. So if worst come worst, I'll just go back to my old line. This is not something. I'm not a what's that, professional broadcaster. I'm not a professional writer or whatever.
Professional
So,
journalist. Yeah.
journalist, or to say. So this is frankly not my rice bowl in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So it's not something that, oh, if I don't do this, then what about my profession? But
Yeah.
the question I should be asking is like, how long should I be doing this? Because this is not my profession in the first place.
So you're actually subsidizing it. You'd actually make a better living not doing TOC.
I at one point, okay, now I wouldn't say, but at one point, I think at least in 2018, if I would earn more as a McDonald counter service person than working as an editor who is being prosecuted by the government all this time.
Yeah.
People don't understand, and the government know this for a fact that I do not earn from running TOC.
Yeah.
Which is why they don't go with all these allegations about Terry is benefiting financially from running TOC and etc. Because they know for a fact that I'm not. That's why they always go for me on the basis, oh, we are foreign funded, you have all these foreign writers. But why not talk about what's in for me personally?
It's exactly the same with me. I've never been able to draw a salary from New Narrative because we haven't made enough money from it. We've never broken even. So, it's exactly the same. They don't say I'm benefiting. They say foreign funded, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm glad you're going to be okay. And I guess then will you be starting a new website then after, or are you going to try and revive TOC, or are you going to start a new website, or what are your plans? Is TOC going to come back in some form?
No, I want to reply to this person, Programmer Paradigm. So there's no need, frankly, even if there's no mirror site, there is this Wayback Machine. If whenever I lose any article from my database, right, I'll go to Wayback Machine because there's a lot. All my articles are there on the Wayback Machine. So any article that you cannot access in the future, just Wayback Machine this particular link. So it's
really important. Speaking as a historian, it's really important that at least the archive survives, because if TOC goes down and then the articles aren't there, future historians are not going to have all these articles to tell a different perspective of Singapore history from, right? They can only say, the Straits Times. They can only look at the mainstream media or Mothership, which is, a government mouthpiece at this point. We need an archive of TOC. So I do hope that we'll be able to find some way to at least mirror it so that what has been published will survive.
Right.
Okay, so let's take some questions from the listener. You've already answered one.
I'm sorry. I didn't answer your question. So whether or not we're going to create a new site. The thing here is, if it was before I think last week, I have answered you. Yes, there's likely plans of coming up with a new site, maybe registering TOC somewhere else, like what New Narrative has. But given the new law that's upcoming, the proposed foreign intervention, I'm scared. I'm really scared shitless in terms of what that law allows the government to do. There is simply no. There's no grounds of defense. There's no basis. Even if we're to comply, meaning TOC runs this new entity were to run totally no foreign funding, no foreign writers, no whatever. It's just Terry running by itself. The very fact that the Minister of Foreign Affairs has suspicion to believe that this website is acting on behalf of a foreign principal or foreign country, even without his or her knowledge, can be arrested, and this arrest is a non-billable arrest. How do you operate, frankly? because
Yeah.
we could run a expose on how the say Ministry of Home Affairs has done certain things, or I wouldn't say Ministry of Manpower, and that itself would be deemed as diminishing the public confidence in the establishment. And then Ministry of Home Affairs decides that, oh, this must be by the behest of a foreign country, and that then even there's no need to even go to POFMA. Simply just go to this particular law and then arrest everyone who is involved or based in Singapore. Even if say this new entity is not based in Singapore, I'm based overseas. But then the law will allow the Minister of Home Affairs to block the website from Singapore. Yeah. So again, even if you cannot get the person to face the penalty, you still can actually prevent the whatever information that's then being generated to reach Singaporeans.
Yeah. So absolutely.
So this law itself is actually crazy.
It's insane. It's totally insane. You made a point online which I thought was very good, that this law is actually like the ISA. It's sort of like the bastard child of POFMA and the ISA, in that it has the mechanisms of POFMA, but it is completely arbitrary, like the ISA, where the ISA can, I mean, any minister can simply say, oh, that person locked them up for a year, renewed every year, just detained indefinitely. This one is the same. The minister simply says, I suspect that's foreign influence, we'll shut it down. And I saw somewhere it's like it's like a fine of up to like 100,000, a fine of up to 100,000 and up to 14 years in jail for non-compliance, and that's insane.
No, it's not. No. You're very wrong. It's not non-compliance. Okay. It's offense itself is that much. It's
right,
not
the offense. Right. Yeah.
For POFMA is very simple. For POFMA is only if there's no circumstances in which you have an offense, you have to face an imprisonment or fine. One is that you deliberately spread a falsehood. Two is that you did not comply with the directions. So on that basis, it's actually very clear. There's still room to wriggle on that. So I don't deliberately spread falsehood, and I if there's a CD or a takedown order, I'll just comply and I would not face with that. But in this case, the moment the minister decides that an offense is committed, and the basis on which you can appeal against this, which the appeal process is just two-way. One is appeal against the minister who ordered this. Two, appeal
the secret tribunal, right?
Yeah. Appeal against a tribunal who is appointed by the president on the advice of the cabinet. So it's not even before the court. The POFMA is still before the court.
But the tribunal only has to have one judge out of all the members of the tribunal.
And is appointed by the president on the advice of cabinet.
Which means appointed by the cabinet, basically, because it's been established the president can't actually countermand the cabinet on a lot of these issues.
Correct. So with this particular law in place, right, how can you operate, even with all the good intent, all the good with nothing violating, right? The moment you piss the minister and the minister thinks that you're eyesore, they can just take you out.
Yeah.
Do you? I think the public doesn't understand that this law brings Singapore away from independence, past colonial, into dynastic rule. Because I think PJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Even the colonial British does not have the power to run to penalize someone like what this particular law actually does.
Yes. We were actually freer in the late days of colonialism than we are today, because at least the British obeyed the rule of law, the spirit of the law, and the courts were independent. And of course, quite famously, they tried to charge the Fajar editorial board for sedition and lost, right? So the courts were independent back then, and the British took great stock in the fact that the courts were independent and there was real justice. Whereas today, I'm not saying about the courts. Okay, don't come and sue me. I'm not saying the courts are not independent, but between POFMA, the Public Order Act, between this new proposed Foreign Intervention Countermeasures Act, between all these reforms that are going to be made as part of the repeal of the Sedition Act, between everything that we have, we are less free today than we were under colonialism. So I think we're almost done, but here's a question from a viewer, right, who says, stating the obvious here, but how can the PAP ever be seriously challenged?
Vote them out.
Exactly.
Yeah. People say that this is a bit extreme. Some people may say this is a bit extreme. It's like, shouldn't we give them opportunity? Like, why? Isn't there any other way to contest? But just look at the debate that we had yesterday. The kind of demur that the PAP ministers and the MPs were having, the way they carry themselves, the reason why they push through a unpopular, even though they say that is on a very reasonable basis of why they are saying what they are saying, but is very unpopular basis, is because they know that they have majority of parliament. There's no way that the motion that they are forcefully pushing through, overriding what the PSP, NCMP has pushed, would fail because they have the majority of parliament, over 2/3. In fact, I would dare say that if, say, the PAP government were to feel that there's a risk of losing power, they can jolly well just hold push a bill just months before they decide to hold election. Because at the end of the day, it's still the Prime Minister who decides to hold election. Just months before they hold election, that voting is not a constitutional right. Or
it's not enshrined in the Constitution. That is true.
Yeah. Because the thing is, the Constitution allows the Parliament to amend the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution that is protected by itself. So it's like how we say this is a hard.
The Constitution though does say that the Parliament must be chosen democratically.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yes. It does not define what that means. The Parliamentary Elections Act then says, regulates voting. But if the PAP argues that democratically doesn't actually mean voting, they could actually do away with voting and still be legal and constitutional. Yes. Whether Singaporeans would accept that and how we'd resist, I'm not sure. But
you think about it, what are the measures in which you can file a contest if, say, something like that would happen? You cannot protest. There's no how far can you push when you come to legal contestation, and who will be running that contestation? And let's say if there's a rule of emergency being called, how can the people react? Just look at COVID, for example. Even if we are unhappy with the way how COVID is run, right? It's just really the members probably have to suck thumb, because this is the parliament this is the government that you elected. This is how they run. And the promise that they make, which is vote us so that we can do our job. Even if they do their job poorly, you can't do anything other than wait for the next election and vote them out. Because there's no such thing as a in between election. You can there's a vote or no confidence, or there's any other means of maneuvering. Especially because when you have over 2/3 of the parliament, say if it's a coalition government or etc., there's a possibility where the politicians can do some shift, say jump party, or form a coalition with another party. But at the current stage, is that because you voted the majority of PAP in, so you are helpless. And currently, because still they still believe that they have the popular support. But what if one day they think that they are imminently they will lose imminently in the next election? You don't have just on the basis of the law that is proposed to be passed in the next parliamentary sitting itself would tell you that there's no limit to where they would push.
Okay, well, we're pretty much out of time.
Yes,
but I do want to at least end on a note of hope and say it is possible to vote them out. that even though the PAP blatantly rigs the elections to to maximize positive outcomes for the PAP, you can still get Aljunied and Sengkang and Hougang and other places. And ultimately, as a survey taken after the last election found, one of the best indicators of people willing to consider voting for other parties was whether they were politically engaged, whether they took part in political discussions, whether they read sites like TOC, whether they filled in petitions, whether they were aware of political events and political news. So really, if you want change in Singapore, the power is with us, the people, to go out and educate others. Just have discussions with your friends, have discussions with your families, share with them articles from New Narrative and, well, I'd say TOC, but TOC is going dark.
Yeah.
But, and come to New Narratives events, our Sekolah Democracy, when we open it up to Singapore, our democracy classrooms. Join New Narrative as a member while you still can, because let's not forget, under this new proposed law, almost certainly New Narrative will get banned in Singapore. So join New Narrative. This is your last chance. And please also support Terry's fundraiser. He's almost there. It's facebook.com/TerryXYC. And he just needs a little bit more money to pay off all these ridiculous damages from the government. So with that, I think we're out of time. I just want to thank you, Terry, for coming and answering all these questions and explaining everything, because this whole IMDA thing is confusing, but ultimately it's quite clear they have no intention of actually taking you seriously. They're just trying to make life difficult for you. And I want to thank you, the audience, for your questions. I hope we answered everything, that whether I asked it directly or through the discussion. Thank you, as always, for coming and attending these events. And do check out New Narrative. You can join at newnarrative.com/join or newnarrative.com/donate. So thank you very much, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.